And now we welcome in the Malzberg panel. As I remind you to keep it here all night for live coverage of the primaries, I'm going to be coming back in the 8 p.m. hour and 10 p.m. hours with my colleague J.D. Hayworth and Ed Berliner. And of course, all night long, we'll have the best political analysis weighing in on the results as they come in. And now, the panel. Tom Borelli, Ph.D., Dr. Tom Borelli, contributor with Conservative Review, and Bre Payton, staff writer with The Federalist. Welcome to both of you. All right, Tom, let me start with you. You heard Roger predict that Michigan will be a lot closer than we think, and he believes that these negative ads, which are running all over the place, are having their effect.
I like Roger, but I think he was really out there managing expectations. If you read between the lines, I think he's really kind of predicting a tough night for Mr. Trump. Certainly, Mr. Trump has been leading, and he's going to be getting a lot of the negative information, a lot of negative ads. But if he becomes a Republican nominee, get used to it, because just wait till Hillary unloads. So this is all part of the process. We'll have to see how it plays out. And the problem with Mr. Trump lately is he's been moderating his position. He's for Planned Parenthood, which was a problem, and he started to back off on the H-1B visas. Mr. Trump, immigration is your issue. You raised it. Don't back away from it.
Yeah, well, that's something he said that he's now going to do when that New York Times secret meeting with the editorial board was brought up at the last debate. Bre, what are you looking for tonight as far as Donald and the Republican side? And let's start with Michigan.
Sure. So I think regardless of how Michigan goes or how many delegates Trump is able to kind of weasel out of that state, I think ultimately after tonight we're going to have to continue to look to Florida and Ohio, because I think if Donald Trump loses either of those states going forward, it's going to be really rough for him to secure the nomination. So yes, tonight is important, but if Donald Trump doesn't absolutely crush it and win those next two states, I think he's going to have a rough time going into the convention.
Well, it looks pretty much, as I said, there's a new Florida poll out from Florida Decides, from a Central Florida cable outlet, and they have Trump up by 20 points over Rubio, 42-22, with Cruz at 17. So we'll see how that happens. I want you to both listen to something. Before we started with Roger, I mentioned the latest controversy of raise your right hand and swear to vote for me, and all of a sudden that's Hitler and his little Nazi followers. But listen to what Glenn Beck had to say.
The people are speaking clearly, and there's two ways to go: anger and nationalism, which has been done before in history. And you can go for nationalism, you can go for anger.
Trump is Adolf Hitler?
If you look at what's happening with Donald Trump and his playing to the lowest common denominator and to the anger in us, Adolf Hitler, we all look at Adolf Hitler in 1940. We should look at Adolf Hitler in 1929. He was a kind of a funny kind of character that said the things that people were thinking.
I mean, Tom, this is really, really low and really despicable and disappointing for a guy of the stature of Glenn Beck, to me anyway.
No, it is disappointing. I like Glenn. I know Glenn. I don't think that was really an appropriate comparison at all. We're in 2016. This is not the 1930s. Look, a lot of people are envious of Mr. Trump because of the crowds that he can draw, rally envy, let's call it. And certainly, Glenn Beck is on the Ted Cruz camp, so he's out there.
Trump's going to hear you say rally envy, and he's going to make use of that in another way.
Yeah. Well, maybe we'll make news then, Steve.
Bre, what do you think? Are you surprised Glenn Beck joined the left-wing radical nutjobs claiming Trump is Hitler?
I do think that the comparisons of the raise your right hand thing and Hitler, it takes it way too far. But I will say that if you just look at the things that Donald Trump has been saying the past couple of weeks, you could draw some comparisons there. This is someone who has applauded how the Chinese government put down the student protesters in Tiananmen Square. This is someone who suggested that we should change the laws in order to make it easier to sue newspapers who say bad things about him, right? So I think he does say a lot of things that are scary. And I will say this, my grandmother...
Wait, Bre, we'll have to start with you when we come back. More with the panel. Don't go away. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. Live coverage of tonight's, I guess they're calling it Super Tuesday Part 2. And the polls will close. The first polls will close at the top of the hour, and preliminary results will be coming in from Michigan and elsewhere. And we will bring it to you right here on Newsmax Television as we take you through the night to midnight, bringing you the latest results. Keep it right here. I'll be here through 8 o'clock and back at 10 o'clock through 11 o'clock. And my colleagues, Ed Berliner and J.D. Hayworth will be here and others. So keep it tuned right here. And next segment, we're taking your phone calls. So you could weigh in with me live, 877-NEWSMAX, 877-639-7629. And for those of you just tuning in tonight, now, for the first time maybe, to watch Newsmax Television's extended primary coverage, I am on every night now at 7 p.m. Eastern, 7 to 8. Please tune in, set your DVR, whatever, and tell your friends. As they said in an episode of Seinfeld, tell your friends. Very important. Okay, back to the panel. Tom Borelli is with us, Bre Payton. And before we left, we had been talking about the equating of Trump to Hitler by Glenn Beck and others. And Bre had a thought that I had to cut her off for and promised her she would be first. So, Bre, the floor is yours.
Sure. So I was just going to say that, is Donald Trump Hitler? No. But does he say a lot of things that make him out to be kind of a bully and act kind of tyrannical? Yes. And I will say that my grandmother, who fled from Argentina in the mid-1960s and the political aftermath of Juan Perón and all the military coups and insurrections that were going on at the time, she looks at Donald Trump and it honestly kind of freaks her out. You know, she looks at him and she sees someone like Juan Perón who appeals to a disaffected group of economically disadvantaged people, right? Like in Perón's case, he appealed to los descamisados, or the shirtless ones. But in Trump's case, he appeals to kind of this white, disaffected, middle class voter who's having a little bit harder of a time and hasn't.
But the problem with that, Bre, is that he appeals to people of many races and nationalities and across the board. Yes. And when he wins right on every demographic and every education level and everything. So
But my point is that he's using these kind of like this bully and intolerant rhetoric in order to appeal to a disaffected group of people, which is similar to what Perón did.
I think the fact, I mean, look, there's no, Tom, and I don't want to spend any more time on this after this, but there's no way. I mean, Donald Trump's goal isn't to annihilate, people of one religion or a nationality, or throw them in ovens, or expand our global reach militarily after territory. I mean, he's Donald Trump. He's a character, and he says things that sometimes he backtracks down when he's confronted. I want to move on. I don't see any comparison. Let's go to Hillary. Yesterday, Hillary was confronted by Bret Baier, who I have the utmost respect for on the Fox News channel. But I was kind of disappointed. Here's what the little bit of the Hillary email exchange, how it played out. 93.
Has redacted and declared 2,101 of your work emails classified, at least at the confidential level, 44 classified as secret, 22 classified as top secret. So you said at a March press conference in 2015, quote, "I did not email any classified material to anyone on my email. There is no classified material." So can we say definitively that that statement's not accurate?
No, you can't.
And then she went on, and I got to tell you, Tom, I mean, we don't have it all to play right now, but he did not confront her. He did not say, what does this say about your judgment? You keep saying Colin Powell. Colin Powell did not have his own server. Whatever he sent, this is unprecedented what you've done. He did not push her.
No, he didn't. And I wasn't sure what the whole way they had it organized, but he certainly didn't push, and he certainly could have went for the jugular on many of the issues you just mentioned, and he chose not to do it. Maybe they want to come back again for another interview. Maybe it's about ratings. Who knows? But he certainly had the opportunity, and at a minimum, it is negligence on her part. And as you mentioned, she's the only one who set up her own private server. That's what's different. That's what's significant.
And Bre, I mean, he asked her, have the FBI or anybody told you or the DOJ that you're a subject of investigation? No. Have they told any of your staff members, close people to you? No. So what are we to believe then? Brett should have said, well, if they didn't tell you, and they didn't tell Huma or Cheryl Mills or anybody, so what are we led to believe? That they're investigating nobody? I mean, I was just very disappointed in what he had to say.
Sure, yeah, I definitely agree with you that he should have doubled down and treated her a lot more harshly. And I think this is kind of emblematic of the way that the media has treated her and treated this issue for the most part. And I think that for the most part, they've done a poor job of explaining the significance of what this exactly means, right? This isn't about just emails and whether or not she knew that it was classified or not. This speaks to larger issues with her as a candidate and her as a person and her character. Right? So, like, she got the server in the first place so that way she wouldn't be subject to FOIA, so that way her communications could be secret. And it also speaks to her incompetence, right? This is a woman who hasn't driven herself since 1996. This is a woman who got her email pushed to her BlackBerry in the first place because she couldn't figure out how to work her email on her computer. So I think the media really needs to double down on that line of rhetoric and needs to say, hey, is this really a woman who we want to have occupy the White House? Someone who doesn't understand how to use her email and doesn't drive herself and is just completely out of touch and kind of incompetent.
All right, guys, I want to thank both of you, Tom Borelli and Bre Payton. Great to talk to you. Thanks for weighing in.